Tonight, President Mahama calls for an end to commentaries on the Supreme Court verdicts and says they are unnecessary and hinders the country's resolve to move forward. The Civic Forum Initiative and Coalition of Domestic Election Observers push for an all-inclusive government to open up the executive branch of government. A 32-year-old mother of 4 children has been crushed to death in a horrifying accident in Wa. In our rural report tonight, we bring you the harrowing story of a mother of 7-month-old twins who says she begs on the streets to appease the spirits of the twins. Elsewhere in Africa, Mali's new president Ibrahim Boubacar Keita has been sworn in at the Supreme Court in the capital, Bamako. We have all these and more coming up in a moment. Please stay with us. Now in our first story, President John Mahama has called for an end to commentaries on the Supreme Court verdict on the election petition which sought to challenge his legitimacy as president. According to him, the commentaries are unnecessary, urging the citizenry to put the case behind them and move on. He made the call when the National Chief Imam and his entourage paid a courtesy call on him at his cantonment residence here in Accra.
The National Chief Imam, Sheikh Dr. Osman Nuhu Shaributu, in the company of some Muslim clerics, chiefs and opinion leaders, this morning visited the president at his residence to congratulate him on the validation of his presidency by the Supreme Court. Reading the Chief Imam's address, Sheikh Arimayao said the judgment given by the Supreme Court in the election petition signified victory for the entire nation and not an individual.
The 8-month-long election petition hearing, which was brought to a close with the pronouncement of verdict on the 29th of August 2013, has given us a cause to celebrate yet another remarkable feat in our process of democratization as a nation. Throughout the period in question, the whole nation was held in some amount of trepidation as we waited for a pronouncement of verdict that could give rise to violent political upheavals. But to the contrary, and thankfully, our country was saved the much anticipated violence by the special love, kindness and favor from Almighty Allah.
He also urged the president to carry through his talk of running an all-inclusive government to foster unity in the country.
Most pleasing, satisfying and heartwarming to us also is your open declaration to the effect that you will run an all-inclusive government. In our estimation, it is only an inclusive approach to governance that can reduce the prevailing political polarization and foster the much-needed unity, which is critical for our national growth and development.
President Mahama thanked the Chief Imam and his entourage for the visit and assured them that he and his team had put the judgment behind them and were ready to deliver on their mandate.
And all of us had, before the verdict was given, pledged to accept the verdict after the Supreme Court pronounced it. And so I believe that the current commentary that is going on about the justices of the court and all that are absolutely unnecessary. The court has decided, let's put the case behind us, let's rally together as a nation. There's a lot of work to do. Let's put our shoulders to the wheel and let's do that work so that our country will become a better place for ourselves and our children. And so I remain focused and I'll work diligently and dedicatedly to achieve the objectives that I have set myself and for which the people of Ghana gave me the mandate to work as their president.
Now, the Civic Forum Initiative and Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, are advocating an all-inclusive government. CODEO believes this will open up the executive branch of government. Now, according to the group, monopoly in the executive has created a system where a huge part of the population feel excluded in governance.
Society believes an all-inclusive government will go a long way to improve Ghana's democracy, which has been tested in recent times during the death of Professor John Atta Mills and the challenge to the legitimacy of President Mahama. According to Executive Director of IDEC, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, the winner-takes-all reforms being advocated are to get more members of the executive elected.
The executive is a monopoly, and there isn't enough democracy there. It's only the president who is elected. Go around the world and see all democracies that are making progress. Elections are held in the legislative branch and in the executive branch. But here, it's only one person, the whole executive. Only the president is elected. So it tells you there's a problem with the design. You rather have to reform the monopoly, open it up in a way through the law and other places that gives others the opportunity to be more inclusive, because this system is creating polarization and is weakening our cohesion.
The Civic Forum Initiative and Kodeyo say the positive tone set by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is greatly responsible for the prevailing peace the country has been enjoying after the Supreme Court's verdict. The group is calling on everyone to emulate the exemplary and inspiring conduct of both Nana Akufo-Addo and President Mahama. Senior Research Fellow of CFI, Dr. Kwesi Jonah, indicated dialogue and persuasion are tools being used to change attitudes and call for reforms.
The state uses coercion, force. That is why the state has a military force, a police force, court system, all of which are intended to give the state enough coercive powers. Civil society is different. I am sure that so many people misunderstand the way in which civil society operates, and they think they can operate like a state. Go and force the person, and we do not do that. And so in a case like what has just happened, criticism of a particular Supreme Court judge, it is important for civil society to make its views known in the public domain so that another person is not tempted. You could go to the person privately, it doesn't work.
CFI and Kodeyo again say it is important for the Supreme Court to publish a user-friendly version of the written judgment in order for citizens to understand it. They advise the media to be responsible and not to engage politicians in discussions that are bound to heighten tensions and undermine our peace and security in these fragile times.
So I would like to acknowledge Star Ghana for sponsoring the election petition and issues surrounding it. And let's move to other stories. The Director of Public Affairs at the University of Ghana, Legon, Stella Amwa, has confirmed to Joy News that the Legon chapter of UTAG has called off its strike.
The University of Ghana UTAG branch had a meeting, and we are aware that their members voted in favor of ending the strike action. So we have issued communication to the university community, that is faculty, staff, and students, and indeed all our other stakeholders, that starting from today, officially, UTAG Legon branch has called off the strike and the lecturers are back to the classrooms.
Now wondering how soon and prepared the lecturers are to return to the lecture halls, Stella Amwa was optimistic. The lecturers are more than ready to be back at the lecture halls, that is sooner than later.
Lecturers are willing and happy to go back to do their core business. And I think that the students also are ever ready to learn. So it will take a couple of hours. I don't expect that tomorrow we would experience something like this. I'm sure that in the next few hours, perhaps even this afternoon, as we speak, lectures will return to normalcy.
Now, in other news, people with disability in society are often regarded as unproductive and incapable of any positive contribution to society. They are often subjected to public ridicule and largely left out or shunned by members of their community who wrongly perceive them as an economic burden. Well, to address these shortfalls, the United Nations Children's Fund, that is UNICEF, wants disability rights to gain more prominence in the global debate.
In developing countries, there are occasionally strong disability movements actively working to improve the living conditions for people living with disabilities. But generally, disabled persons are weakly represented in civil society. Ghana is no exception. According to Ghana 2010 census, some 738,000 people in Ghana live with disabilities, representing 3% of the total population. Over 82,000 of this number are children with various forms of disabilities and constitute the extremely vulnerable group. Out of every 6 people living with a disability in Ghana, one of them is a child aged between 0 and 14 years. Children with speech impairment are in the majority. These challenges in Ghana and other developed countries are the reasons for UNICEF's interventions to promote a strong voice and increase visibility to push for fair representation for children living with disabilities. Speaking at the launch of UNICEF's report on the state of the world's children, Country Representative Susan Namondo Ngogi explains the organization's commitment.
And in many parts of the world, when a child has a disability, whatever the disability is, cerebral palsy, albinism, hearing impairment, blindness, etc., parents, communities are worried. They don't think that these children can contribute to society. They sometimes don't think these children are fit to live. In some places, in extreme cases, these children are killed. And so we're trying to raise awareness to say no. Many of these children can contribute. True, they have some special needs, but they can contribute to society, and we should give them the opportunity to contribute.
She urged government to provide an all-inclusive and equitable approach to resolving the challenges. Acting Director of the Children Department at the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Helena Obinga Samoa, says government is working to ensure that children living with disability are adequately catered for.
Stakeholders who work for children, work for and with children, are going to use this to, and the people will be trained, of course, to be able to know how to handle these issues, so that children may not even end up being vulnerable on them. Though a lot of things will go on, so that children, people will know how to handle children who have problems, all kinds of problems. Some people think a disabled child belongs to an institution, but families can take care of them also, and then make sure that they live within the family just like any other child. We also want to talk about the fact that the ministry, with support from UNICEF, is now developing a child protection policy that is fit for Ghana. It's a policy that is going to look at looking at the structures at the community level. Looking at what do the chiefs have, what do the religious people have, what do families have, so that we go back to the extended family system where every child belongs to the whole community and not to one person. So
UNICEF is currently working with various stakeholders to ensure that people living with disabilities, especially children, are fairly represented to unleash their full potential to support nation building.
So what will push a caring mother to put her children at risk whilst begging for alms? Your guess may be as good as mine: poverty. But some mothers in Tamale with 2 sets of twins say the spirits of their twins, rather than economic hardships, compel them to send their kids out for begging.
In the shallow drains of the Tamale main taxi rank, these mothers sat with their twin children begging for alms. They depend on the benevolence of the public to survive. The ages of the twins range between 5 months and 2 years. At sunrise, business starts till sunset, notwithstanding the dangers involved. The risks are many, from inhaling exhaust fumes of vehicles to being knocked down. Initial questions suggested poverty drives mothers to use children to beg, but Tohatu Abdullahi, a mother of 7-month-old twins, tells Joy News she begs with her twins to appease their spirits. She told Joy News a horrifying story of losing her twin daughters if she disobeyed the wish of their spirits. Aisha Mahama has a set of 3 twins. Her story is no different. Aisha says she's embarrassed begging for alms to appease the spirits of her children. This prompted us to ask for explanation from Bugu Iana Rahman Al-Hassan, a spiritualist in Tamale. He totally disagreed with the notion that twins must be used to beg to appease their spirits. He recalled his own twins, Asana and Fusaini, were never used to beg. Al-Hassan wants the public to protect these children. ASP Emmanuel Holotu is the Northern Regional Coordinator of Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit.
As an excuse, it's laziness that these women are exhibiting. Others feel the women themselves are victims of domestic violence because their husbands are not maintaining them. But we will not take it like that. Would others go to the street to beg? They are only using their religious beliefs to appeal to the benevolence of people. And in all this, they expose these children to physical harm. Because if any of those vehicles should develop any mechanical faults, the vehicles could run into the children and the children will not have any escape route.
The story of these twins exposes the weaknesses in our social systems as a nation. Rafiq Salam's report for Joy News.
A very interesting story from there, from where I mean. Now, the Director for the Ministry of Roads and Highways is appealing for public patience over the 2-year period it would take to complete the new Kwame Nkrumah Circle interchange. According to ABASS MOHAMMED AWOLO, sufficient diversions will be created to minimize the inconvenience the construction works might cause the general public. The Kwame Nkrumah Circle is one of the most congested in the capital, with thousands of vehicles plying it daily. In order to reduce congestion on the road, works have begun to reconstruct it to a 3-level flyover. According to Director for the Ministry of Roads and Highways, ABASS MOHAMMED AWOLO, any inconvenience that will be caused during the 2-year period estimated for its completion will be minimized by proper diversions.
Obviously, you have the stage that you might need to close the entire carriageway. Then you need to look at diversions, and all those ones, maybe people now going to the west, you need to divert through Abeno, come in front of the ECG office, Otublohum, then back to the New Time Junction. And for all the roads that will be using as diversion routes, as part of the contract, they are going to reconstruct them. We'll do everything possible to ensure that those diversion routes are properly prepared. We wouldn't divert people onto gravel roads. As part of the contract, we are diverting people onto roads that are going to be paved, so that dust nuisance or any other things can be minimized.
When works are completed, a bridge will link the new town in Sawam Road to Accra. The Akasanoma Road around the Calvary Baptist Church towards Accra New Town will also be linked by another bridge across the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. A third bridge will connect the Ring Road and Fanofa Bridge across the railway line, the Odor River and the New Times intersection before moving to the ground level just after the SNED building along the Ring Road. There will be no need for motorists to use the Ring Road when moving towards Neoplan or Odona because they will be linked by a new bridge which will also be connected to Otublohum near the ECG. So, in the midst of this magnificent design aimed at the convenience of motorists, what becomes of the pedestrian?
Because the main movement would be above the current road level, it means that in terms of safety for pedestrians, you can cross, though we shall have dedicated crossing points, you can actually cross the road without coming into conflict with a vehicle, because the vehicles will be above us. They will have, so the pedestrians now will walk at grade and the vehicles are actually lifted above pedestrians.
Another cause for concern is the road widenings that may cause damage to underground cables of telecommunications network providers like Glo, MTN and Vodafone. But Mr. Awolo tells me they have already begun the tedious work of relaying cables further away from the main carriageway. According to him, the project will not be delayed because it is a turnkey contract with total funding. The project, which is funded with a loan from the Brazilian government, is being executed by Queiroz Galvar, a Brazilian company with an estimated amount of 74 million euros. We take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Thank you very much for staying with us. You won't regret it, actually. We have more interesting stories coming up in this bulletin. About 10 suspected armed robbers have been nabbed by the Obuasi Police Command for various alleged robberies. According to the police command, the robbers have admitted playing roles in series of robbery expeditions in the area. Police say snap checks, increased day and night patrols, recruitment and motivation of informants helped in the arrest. Mohammed Nuruddin has more.
In June this year, about 10 robbers robbed SDLG, a heavy equipment company owned by some Chinese, and made away with over 250,000 Ghana cedis and other valuable items. Police in the area have managed to arrest 6 of them. 4 vehicles, including a Nissan Rogue 4x4, Infiniti 4x4, BMW 5 Series, and an Opel Astra saloon car, were retrieved from them. The suspects include Steven Nyamnyele, Elias America, Kwame Buedu Isaac, Kwame Nyame, Jamel Yakubu, Gordon Sasu, and Suraj. 30-year-old Kasim Musa has also been convicted and sentenced to 8 years in prison for stealing a quantity of gold valued at 43,100 Ghana cedis belonging to Abubakar Fuseni, who was shot in the leg whilst a security man was killed in an attack by robbers. At a press briefing, police believe all the suspects mentioned are linked to Samson Chrome Gold robbery. 26-year-old Kwabna Pia has also been arrested at Insuem in connection with a robbery incident at Asonkore, a suburb of Obuasi.
On 1st June 2013, about 10 young men armed with guns robbed SDLG, a heavy equipment company owned by Chinese, and made away with over 250,000 Ghana cedis, equivalent to $39,600, and other valuables. 5 of the robbers have been arrested, and they have admitted of various roles they played in the robbery. 4 vehicles have so far been retrieved from them. They told investigators the vehicles were bought from the proceeds of the robbery.
Kwabna and 5 other accomplices succeeded in robbing a guest and 3 other residential homes of 10,000 Ghana cedis, jewelry, mobile phones, and other valuable items in July this year. 3 other suspects are on remand at the Jacobo Police Command assisting with investigation. Obuasi Divisional Police Commander ACP Kofidun Forbechi said new strategies have been introduced to create sense of discomfort for criminals in the municipality. Mohammed Nuruddin's report from the Ashanti region.
Now we move on to some rather sad news where a 32-year-old mother with 4 children this morning met her untimely death when she was crushed to death by a Ford truck in the Upper West Regional Capital, Wa. The accident occurred at the main dual carriageway in the heart of the municipality. Viewers are warned the images might be disturbing.
According to an eyewitness, Yusuf Abubakar, the deceased 32-year-old woman who was identified as Hawa Adams was riding a motorcycle to her confectionery and cosmetics shop when the accident occurred. The Ford truck with registration number UW2636C knocked her down, killing her instantly. The woman's head was smashed. This attracted several people to the scene. Police MTTU personnel had a tough time controlling vehicular congestion on the main dual carriageway. The driver of the Ford truck fled the accident scene.
I was coming, so the woman also coming. So the woman went to curve the U-turn. So when I come, the woman did for my right side. So I also did for the main road. The woman just came to the road that I just come and went to care, so that the time that I went to see the woman, I just hit it.
The WA police have begun investigations. Rafiq Salam's report from WA.
A rather sad story there. Now, Deputy Local Government and Rural Development Minister Baba Jamal has presented some logistics to the Upper East Regional Town and Country Planning Department to be used for a street naming and address system across all the districts of the region. Albert Sori filed the following report.
The logistics include computers, laptops, secured phones, color photocopiers and scanners. Presenting the items at an orientation workshop at the Regional Coordinating Council on Tuesday, Baba Jamal said government is taking the street naming and address system seriously. Baba Jamal, on behalf of government, also presented 120 tricycles to beneficiaries of the Local Enterprises and Skills Development Program, LESDEP.
They were all assembled in the region. This is not something that was brought from Accra. It was assembled in the region, and for that matter, the purpose and objective of the LESDEP project is to impart or develop local enterprise. And so all these people who developed this were people who were trained in Upper East, and they are doing the assembling here in the region. So it tells you that the LESDEP is not just about giving people equipment, but also training people who will be maintaining it, who will be ensuring that they work well to the benefit of the people.
Receiving the items, Upper East Regional Minister Alhaji Limuna Mohammed Muniru said he was confident that the tricycles were going to help improve lives of beneficiaries in the region.
We are very grateful. We hope this will help solve some of our youth unemployment situation, because these things are, you see them here in Accra, you may not value them, but in Upper East region they are a main source of transportation.
Residents of Nkontompo, a fishing community near SEKONDI in the western region, woke up to witness the surprise of a dead whale washed ashore. According to the residents, it is the first time they've seen something like this in 20 years.
People trooped to the scene where the dead whale was found at the time of the news team's visit. The recent occurrence of dead whales being washed ashore still remains a mystery, yet to be unraveled by authorities of the Environmental Protection Agency or the Fisheries Commission. There are speculations the death of these whales could be attributed to the ongoing oil exploration at the Jubilee fields in the western region. Early reports added that the environmental impact assessment issued for the Jubilee project states that subsea infrastructure and installations have the tendency to affect the life and survival of marine mammals. The Jubilee oil field is located 60 kilometers offshore in the Atlantic Ocean between the Deepwater Tunnel and West Cape 3 Points blocks in the western region. About 5 dead whales have been washed ashore from Saturday, August 31 till date, with 2 in Accra and 3 in the western region. 15 cases have been recorded over the years, with most cases occurring in the western region. Joy News spoke to the secretary of the chief fisherman of Nkontompo, Kwesi Bedu, on the matter. The Deputy Western Regional Minister also shared his views.
We've called ACCRA, and somebody's on an expert is on his way to actually do a postmortem. That's when we can establish what the cause of this problem. I think the 4 that was shown, and they were decomposed, and I think you cannot do anything. But this one looks a bit fresh, so we need to do a postmortem and find out what is going on.
In other news, the 2013-2014 National Service Persons Deployment has been released. Greater Accra tops the list of deployment, followed by Ashanti region. Upper West region recorded the lowest number of persons deployed by the scheme. The deployment excludes traffic wardens, as suggested by the former executive director. We take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. You're welcome to the business segment. In our first story on the segment tonight, government through the Ministry of Trade and Industry has acquired about 2,668 acres of land for the construction of the SEKONDI export processing zone. Meanwhile, the Minister for Trade and Industry, on behalf of government, has issued the first advance payment of 2.5 million Ghana cedis to the chiefs on whose land the project will be constructed. A report by Western Regional Correspondent William Benjamin Peters.
The minister, as part of his one-day familiarization visit to the Western region, together with his team, first visited Plot Enterprise Ghana Limited, a cocoa processing firm located at Mpinsin, where authorities of the company took the minister through the operations. The minister later inspected the 2,668-acre land meant for the construction of an export processing enclave to be known as the SEKONDI Export Processing Zone, which is as a result of a contract signed by government in 1996. About $67 million out of the 3 billion CBD loan is expected to be committed to the project, which will be developed by Hassan International Investment from China. The minister took the opportunity to meet the 4 chiefs from the communities on whose land the project will be constructed and presented a check of 2.5 million Ghana cedis, which is the first advance payment out of a total sum value for the land. The issue of encroachment on the land, with massive projects including a supposed university being constructed on some part of it, raised cause for concern. The Metropolitan Chief Executive for SEKONDI Takrady, Captain Retired Anthony Kujo, commended the chiefs for their patience and urged them to support government towards the realization of the project and pledged to deal with the issues of encroachment. The Minister for Trade and Industry, Haruna Idrisu, said the completion of the project will make the SEKONDI Takrady metropolis the industrial hub of the country, pledging government's commitment towards the project. He further hinted that the ministry will soon submit a bill to cabinet, which will be known as the Industrial Zones Bill, to ensure that about 1,000 to 2,000 acres of land will be dedicated to the development of industry, particularly export processing zones in all the 10 regions. He also condemned the encroachment on the land. He again encouraged the chiefs to invest the remaining amount into equity for posterity after handing over the check of the amount to the 4 chiefs. The chief of Sofokrom, Nakwesi Bedu II, who doubles as the acting president of the SEKONDI traditional area, on behalf of all the chiefs, thanked government for the gesture and pledged their support, especially in dealing with the encroachers.
Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Nielante Vanderpoy, has encouraged Ghanaian industries to ensure effective strategies and packages that will give them access into the international market. The minister made the observation during the Western Regional launch of the 7th ECOWAS Trade Fair.
The 7th ECOWAS Trade Fair, under the auspices of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, is scheduled for October 24 to November 4, 2013 at the Ghana International Trade Fair in Accra. The fair is expected to provide a forum for the exchange of ideas and commercial transactions among industrialists, investors, manufacturers, commercial operators, public and private sector organizations within the ECOWAS sub-region, and shall provide an opportunity to obtain information on products, services, enterprises and markets existing in the member states under the theme Regional Integration Through Trade. Speaking at the launch, the Paramount Chief of Western Nzima Traditional Area, Awulai Anoajayi II, stressed the need for a national law for ECOWAS trade to enable easy flow of goods, services and transport among ECOWAS countries, and encouraged authorities to use the fair to address such matters.
That these are arrangements that the ECOWAS Commission has put in place and is working to achieve them. But why are we still lagging behind? Because the EU, the Regional Cooperation for Inclusive and Sustainable Development for South and Southwest Asia, in their development report of 2012 to 2013, have made very serious efforts at achieving their objectives. Why is ECOWAS lagging behind?
The Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Nilante Vanderpoy, speaking on the importance of the fair, entreated Ghanaian industrialists to boost their potential, especially on the international market, by ensuring effective strategies and proper packaging of their products.
I wish to emphasize that the objective of our hosting the 7th ECOWAS Fair is not to achieve short-term goals or on the spot sale of products, but rather long-term goal of establishing useful contacts with prospective buyers and importers from other countries. We must focus on the actualization of our economic potentials. It is important to note that product quality, packaging, and supply capacity of Ghanaian companies to meet export orders are indispensable variables for successful hosting and participation of our industries.
And still in business, the Food and Drugs Authority is appealing to manufacturers of Burkina, a local Ghanaian drink, to desist from using fresh milk since it has several health implications. Officials have thus directed manufacturers of Burkina to opt for processed liquid or powdered milk since its safety is guaranteed. The authority made the appeal at a training program for Burkina producers on the health safety of their product.
Over 20 Burkina producers, mostly females, participated in the one-day workshop. They were taken through the various stages of Burkina production, storage, sanitation, disease control, food poisoning, and distribution. The call for the use of already treated milk became rife following concerns that the usage of fresh milk, when not handled well, could lead to food poisoning.
The powdered milk is safer because it's dry. You can handle it, and because it's dry, it's a dry product, it's dry and powdery, you could easily handle it. You can keep it under room temperature conditions and all that. Anytime you want to produce, you just take a little and then mix it with water and then you are good to go. Other than fresh milk where you have to keep it under very cold temperature conditions and things. And if you don't have those kinds of conditions, then the risk of contamination of the fresh milk is very high. So we would advise the women to use the powdered milk rather.
Officials are concerned that most of the Burkina producers do not have the technical know-how of preventing contamination of fresh milk, which backs calls for them to use processed milk instead.
The fresh milk, the dangers is that you are taking the fresh milk probably from the farm. Do you have any facility or any medium by which you carry the fresh milk to the house? And the fresh milk is sad that we all know what milk is. It has high nutrient content, so it easily gets contaminated. So the only way that you can maintain the quality of the fresh milk is to reduce the temperature as much as possible to inactivate bacteria, to prevent rapid growth which can cause poison. Or you heat it, we call something pasteurization, you heat it within a specific temperature and time to kill bacteria. But even if you kill bacteria, you are supposed to maintain it at a specific temperature to ensure that you don't have the growth of bacteria again. And it will be difficult for these women. How are they going to transport the milk from the farm to the house?
One of the Burkina producers, Amadou Suleimana, explained how he prefers using processed milk.
Powdered milk is good, and most of the time it has already been processed, everything. Concerning with the cow milk aspect, it depends on how you yourself prepares it, because normally we know cow is needed for TB, and then if the cow has any disease and then you use the milk to prepare your Burkina, definitely people will fall sick and then bring it on you. The company is going to collapse.
The second phase of the training by the Food and Drugs Authority will be extended to producers in other areas, including Ashaiman.
Up next is markets data. Guinness was brought to you in a...
Sports is brought to you in association.
Time for the very latest in the world of sports. Let's talk about the Black Stars. Really, it's all about them. And the build-up to Friday's crucial 2014 World Cup qualifier between the Black Stars and the Chipolopolo of Zambia is at its heights. The latest turn is the inability of the Zambian national team to arrive in Ghana as scheduled. The Zambian national team will not arrive in the country tonight after the Chipolopolo disembarked because they had no permission to land at the Kumasi airport. The Zambians were expected tonight ahead of Friday's World Cup qualifier, but the current development has kept them in Lusaka. The association, though, are yet to issue a statement to that effect. Meanwhile, the Black Stars visited an orphanage in Kumasi this afternoon to interact with kids and donated food items to the children. The national team players and their coaches went straight to the Kumasi Children's Home soon after arriving in the guarding city from Accra ahead of Friday's crucial 2014 World Cup qualifying clash against Zambia. Coach Kwesi Appiah, Captain Asamoah Gyan and Michael Layson presented the items to the children in the presence of other players. As part of the mission to give back to society, the Black Stars normally visit orphanages to encourage the kids and give them material support. The Asantehene Otumfuo Seitu II brought forward his visit to the Black Stars camp ahead of Friday's crucial 2014 World Cup qualifier. Otumfuo was originally scheduled to visit the Black Stars during the last training session at the Babera Sports Stadium tomorrow, but paid a visit after the team's training this evening because of some urgent changes in his schedule. Right now, Guinness Ghana Breweries Limited has presented a cash of 1 million Ghana cedis to the Black Stars as part of payment for the 3-year sponsorship agreement with the Ghana Football Association. This incentive is to serve as a massive booster for the Black Stars as they step up their preparations to face Zambia and the crucial World Cup qualifier on Friday. Madam Agnes Essa is Marketing Director of Guinness Ghana Breweries Limited.
And Guinness has the pleasure to be the official beverage sponsor of the Black Stars, the senior national team. You are doing us proud and we want you to continue to do that. We have supported the Black Stars for more than a decade, and as has been mentioned already, this is a partnership, a relationship and a bond. As a company, we remain steadfast as the Black Stars have developed over the years into the strength that you have now in terms of being recognized as a world-class brand and one that we are proud to be associated with. The partnership between Guinness and the Black Stars has grown stronger over the years, and today we are happy to progress that partnership by presenting to you a check of 1 million Ghana cedis.
Rather interesting, Deputy Sports Minister Yusuf Yamin actually thanked Guinness Ghana on behalf of the Football Association and the Black Stars.
As a former player myself, I know that two things we have in football in terms of motivation. We have the moral motivation and we have the financial motivation. Even though I disagree with the media always asking of winning bonuses, I think that it's also part of whatever one will want to play a game and win for. And so it is something very interesting when you have corporate bodies coming together and wanting to support our teams.
That'll be all for sports tonight. Keep on praying for the Black Stars, really. Have a good night.
Sports was brought to you in association with
Smile. You've got Higo.
Now, after campaigning against hepatitis B, Ochame Kwame is working tirelessly on a whole new musical album which aims at bringing Africa together with music.
It's time for me to move away from my comfort zone and taste the world music and see how it feels like and the precious and the nice cities around it. So the new album is called African Connection, and then yes, it features 16 great musicians from 16 great African countries.
According to the rap doctor, the African Connection album is geared towards connecting Africans together. Counterpart J. Martins, who left Ghana yesterday after recording his part of the song, tells us he is excited about his collaboration with Ochame and entreats all Africans to look forward to another day.
He's a great philosopher.
he writes poetry. It's like, you know, and sometimes it's like someone who speaks in parables. You need to understand it.
Now, he's been off the music scene for a little over 5 years, but he's back with a new brand and a new album. Award-winning gospel musician and minister Josh Laye has released his new album, Cain.
Josh Laye, who is known for his high energy and tactful blend of genres in his songs, launched his 8th studio album titled Kani on September 1 at the Alisa Hotel. The album comes at a time when the artist has rebranded himself after some 16 years. Now known as Chata, he in an earlier interview said the Kani album highlights the darkness inherent in every human being. Full of energy and going by his promise of a night of pure entertainment at the launch, Chata gave his patrons a performance to remember. The launch also saw the live recording of some hit songs from his 7 albums.
So before we end the bulletin, we've received some comments about the story we showed earlier about some twins who supposedly pushed their mothers to go out begging for alms, and we'll read a few of them to you. We have Thomas Frimpong Hayford, who says this tradition must stop. Ebenezer Adai Showkid said, this world is full of mysteries. Hey, we are Simunsem Papa. And then we have Revelation Malachi Effort, who said, oh la la. We also have Emmanuel Sowapobi, very interesting comments coming up here, who says their mothers are even benefiting from it, so there is no tendency to stop that silly act. They should use that little money they mobilize to start trade. Unfortunately, because of time constraint, we can't bring you all the comments, but you can still keep them coming in. We have to end the bulletin now, but before we go, always like we do, let's look at stories that made headlines tonight. President Mahama calls for an end to commentaries on the Supreme Court verdict and says they are unnecessary and hinders the country's resolve to move forward.